Hey everybody, this is Keith Johnson with CampWorks. I hope you're having a great summer season. I want to try something new this time with doing a video introduction and overview of CampWorks 3.8 as we roll it out after Labor Day. I've really enjoyed getting to know many of you as we've tried to convey over the phone and through our written communications. Partnerships are critical, and we want you to be able to rely on us, and hopefully this video helps you to have a higher comfort level on us and what we do, as well as we want to be able to rely on you to continue to grow our business. We need your support in feedback on the software, on improvements that we need to make, as well as supporting us with service contracts and online reservations for continued recurring revenue streams that support our business. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I love technology. My background's in mechanical engineering. I spent 26 years at a high-tech corporation, and most recently, for the last 10 plus years, roles as a director in sales and marketing, new business development. And so I love technology, I love the outdoors, as you can see, and I also love business development. And CampWorks really enables us to bring all three of those together, and thus that's my passion. And that's why I left in January my corporation to focus on this full time. And so I want to take a minute, first of all, to give my appreciation to all of you that have supported us over the course of this last 6-9 months with service agreements, with taking on online reservations, and helping us to grow this business. So without further ado, let's look into the new features of version 3.8. Thanks. Welcome to version 3.8. First thing I will point out is that there are no changes on the home screen, so everything in menu system, everything is just like before, so that should make for an easy transition. But I would like to start out with some terminology changes. So first thing, on the rental space setup screens, the overall screen size has been enlarged to enable room for some new features. Camp RV sites are now called campsites, and we did that to alleviate some concern or confusion over tents versus RV sites. And so our intention really is we have 5 different areas that we cover: campsites, cabins, boat slips, rooms, storage units. So basically each one is a different type of business. So in the camping area, or campsites now, we extensively use a new feature called site types. That feature's always been there, but now we're using that in many different ways. And so this is an area, if you've never set up, we recommend that you set it up, and I will explain how to do that a little bit later. But you can define the types of sites. So for example, a tent is a type of campsite, a back-in, pull-through, premium, full hookup. These are all types of sites. The idea is that you can call them whatever you want. You can create this list, and again, that I will explain that later. I'm going to show you how it's used first, then we'll show you how to do the setup for it. Okay, so again, tents are now a type of campsite, RV sites, premium, full hookup, etc. We do the same thing with cabins. We have types of cabins. Comfort, in this case we've set up a couple: comfort and camping cabins. And you can do the same thing on boat slips and rooms and storage units. Okay, so let's go back to campsites. Another new feature that we've added is what we call a group space. And so there is now a new option called group area space. An example would be you have a parking lot that you accept a number of reservations for dry camping in that parking lot for special events, a concert or something like that. So you would create a type for dry camping, and then you would click on group area space, and that would allow as many reservations to be made on that one site as possible. Basically, there's no limit. And so then the second feature is whether you want that area to be rented only by one group, or that you want to allow multiple groups or individuals to make simultaneous reservations. So these two features enable you to define use of a group space or a large area. So let's take a look at how the new site type feature is used. So you would define this then for each site. Again, I'll show you in a minute how to set this list up, but once the list is set up, as you scroll through each of the sites, you can see we've moved to site 3. That one's still a premium full hookup. All of these are premium full hookups. So here's an example. This is a different site type. This is tent with electric. This page is defining each of your rental spaces. So what the number is, what the amenities are, and then what the type is. And we'll use that type then for setting rates. So essentially, when we do the mass rate change, we'll be able to select, hey, I want to change all my tent with electric sites. So you would select that, and then when we're doing the rate change, any site that has tent with electric, for example, would then change the rates down in this area, again, when we're doing that. So that's one way that it's used. Let me show you another way it's used. If we go to the grid, on the grid, you can view your filters by each of these areas. So I can go group area, I can select primitive tents, oops, I don't have any set. I can go to premium full hookups. So you get the idea. You can use it as a filter. You can also use it, as I just mentioned, to change rates. So in changing rates, so the main rental space type is a campsite. The site type, here's an example where, let's say I want to change all of the premium full hookups. You can narrow it down by location if you want, but to just change premium full hookup and then a certain location, or you can leave it at any. Same thing with hookups, you can set to any. And if I were to then put in select 2018 for my rate period, my rate time frame, any hookups, any location, the site type being premium full hookup, and amps being all, then over here, whatever I change, let's say I set the daily rate to $29.95, and I say it has city and state taxes. As soon as I hit change rates, it would change every site that matches this to $29.95. So that's how the change rate, or how the site type is now used to change rates. And that makes it easy for you, and I want you to know that, so when you define your types, you can define them in such a way that everything that has the same price point has the same site type, so that way you can easily change them by site type. Okay, so if I were to hit change rates, one other thing that's new on this screen is it does come up and tell you that how many different rental spaces have been set, so that way you know that I know I should have so many of them, and it did change all of them before it was ambiguous. Okay, so that covers the site rate change. Okay, let's say I want to make a new reservation. So another way I can use the site type feature, so I have it set to campsite. Now you can see that we have this list that we've generated. And so, for example, primitive tent, if I want to make a primitive tent reservation, I can just select that, and then all of the primitive tent type sites will show up. So then, of course, we can make our reservation and continue. So that's just another way I wanted to show you that the site type feature is used. It is also used extensively for online reservations, and we'll cover that a little bit later as well in the updates on the online reservation part. So how do we set it up? We go into software options, and on the last tab, the rental types tab, this is where you would add your what the selections will be for each of the different campsites, cabins, boat slips, etc. And so to add a new one, you just hit add, enter the name of what you want to add, and hit OK. And then that will add it to the list so that you can select it for each different campsite, or if you do this one, then for each cabin. And then this area is only for online reservations, and only if you're using our new feature, which is to reserve by type instead of reserving by by the actual site number. Many of our customers do not want to offer the guests the ability to pick their own site. They want to control that, which makes sense. And so one of the things that we've done in this release is we've added the ability to make reservations only by a certain type. So it would show this type, whatever you've called it, so let's call it a premium full hookup, and then it would show this description and then how many of that type of site are available. And then the online reservation process would allow you to make a reservation for that particular type of site, but the guest would never see the actual which site it is in that full hookup type of site. So hopefully that's clear. And again, I'll show an example when I get to the online reservations to explain how that works. But hopefully everyone's clear. This is how you add new types, and so whatever types you add in here will then be available in the rental space setup so that you can define each site. So that list defines what is available for you to pick to define a rental space type. All right, next I'd like to show you some changes to the payments screen. We have a few different options. First of all, there were two options that we removed because they were no longer correct. They were for a third-party online reservation process that we used to support. So that was called Web Res Refund and Web Res Payment, and or Web Payment, I think it was. And so those are no longer available as they were causing some confusion with our online reservations and were really no longer used. Another thing that you may see is if you're a current user of one of our integrated credit card processing solutions, either XCharge or Card Connect, there's now an offline option. And so if for some reason you processed a card through another means or did it through the online terminal, the virtual terminal through the online website, then and you want to enter it into CampWorks, then you can click the offline card option, put in manually the last 4 digits. I'm just going to do it for 2 cents just to show you how this works, and then save it. Now this app does not process anything. It is just logging the transaction into CampWorks. So I hit OK. Now it stored it. Note that it says Visa offline. If you're not familiar with our online credit card processing, let me show you how this works. I currently have this one set up for doing Card Connect, and I'm just going to do another small transaction. And we have two options. If you have a chip card reader or a swiper, you would hit the swipe insert, or you can do a manual, and then you would just click this, swipe the card, and it will automatically process. The other option is that you want to manually enter the card, and to manually enter the card, the screen comes up, which is Card Connect's essentially secure credit card entry area. After you have put in the credit card number, enter your information, and hit submit, and it will automatically process the card. It's now in your bank, or it's basically ready for queued for processing and should be in your bank account in a day or so. So that's how easy the integrated credit card processing is, which enables you to keep cards secure. And if I were to go look up that transaction, now I can process that transaction. It's already stored in here. I've done a number of transactions, so that's why we see a bunch of them in here. But essentially, we have a stored credit card, and if I want to process that again, I can now run that stored card, and there, now we've just processed that card again. So this enables secure storage of credit cards without the numbers being seen or potential of any numbers being stolen. Essentially, we store what's called a token, which is a fake number or a number that represents the credit card, that if someone were to break into your system and steal the database, all they would get is fictitious numbers that have no meaning. But that number is sent in a secure manner, an encrypted manner to Card Connect or XCharge, and then they look it up in their system to the actual card number and process it. So that's how credit card processing works. One other new feature is that you can edit notes. Unfortunately, I didn't put any notes in any of these, but you can type right here, test, notes have been edited, save. So now the notes are available to be edited again, test 2, save. So as you can see, you can keep notes when you create a new one, put your notes in here for payments, and then those notes will show up in this screen in the reservation and can be edited later if you want to modify them without having to redo the payment. One other thing that we've added is also the transaction ID. It's really for reference. It's not something you normally need, but if for some reason you're trying to understand what happened with a particular payment and you want to look it up on their portal, like the Card Connect portal, you can see the transaction ID on their system and on our system so that you can make sure these match up, and just helps to trace down an issue if there is any sort of issue. Okay, another area that we've added a report. We've updated, modified a few other reports, but a couple notable ones that I'd like to show you. If you do monthly statements, do a statement for your guests every month if they're a monthly or seasonal. We have added a monthly past due aging report. So that's under Financial Reports, General, and Past Due. If you view that, I don't have much data in this database, but at least it'll show you what their general report is, and it's there. The information about the guest, what their last statement, what their statement due date was, how much is past due and hasn't been paid, and how many days past due. So hopefully everyone finds that helpful to monitor your monthly guests and their payments. And then I also want to point out the sales tax report. We've updated that. The sales tax report now has several columns. It has tax 1 sales, has sales for each of the sales taxes listed. So you'll be able to get a total at the bottom, and unfortunately I don't have any data in here, but at least you can see how the report is laid out. So you'll get a total taxable 1 sales, total taxable 1 tax, tax 2, tax 3, etc. And then it will sum up the totals. Before we didn't break it down by each of the sales, taxable 1 sales, taxable 2 sales, taxable 3 sales. We just had it all lumped together, which we realized didn't support everyone's needs for what you have for tax reporting. So hopefully this format works better. Keep in mind this report is based off of guests do need to be checked in. If they're not checked in, it assumes the sale did not happen. This is basically an accrual based report, but if you essentially receive money each time you make a charge, it pretty much matches timing wise for being a cash basis report as well. But just keep that in mind. Make sure your guests are being checked in so that constitutes a sale, and then it should show up on this report. Another new area under rates setup that I would like to explain, and this may only impact a few of you that have marinas, but we have a per foot charge now that can be used for especially for boat slips, was most common. And you can see an example of it, and how you add that is in this area. So daily, we called it a standard slip. You can see now there's a rate per foot column. And so when you create a new one, you can add in the rate per foot. You can have a base charge if you want as well. Maybe it's $10 plus $1 per foot or something like that. Or it can just be $1 per, or whatever you put in per foot. And then what taxes apply. And so that will enable you to do per foot charges for slips or for anything else if for some reason you were charged that way for a camper, but I think that's mostly for slips. So then how we would use that slip charge, let's create a new reservation. for a slip, and let's see, bolt slip. And by the way, these types are set up also in the setup. You can set up the different types that you have. Let's just say it's cabin cruiser, and we'll just leave it at 20 feet. And we want a large slip. No, there aren't any available. Let's try a small slip. Okay, so here's one, dock one. Let's create the reservation. And then for the rate code, we're going to select this to essentially get the per foot charge. This is now what we just set up in setup, so we essentially are not going to use this daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal. We're going to use this rate code instead. We hit save, and now we can see we have $35 as a 20 foot, and so that gives us a total of $35, and we are set. We've got our taxes, all good. Okay. Another change I would like you to be aware of is relative to rates. If you have a rental space that has a 0 rate, CampWorks will now automatically search for the next highest rate and ask if you want to use that. So I'm just going to pick a person. I'm going to make a reservation. Site 9 I have set up for the daily rate to be 0. If I click on this, you'll see that. So for 2018, I have the daily rate set to 0. Okay, so I'm going to make a reservation on that space and hit 2, and I have the rate is going to default to daily because it's just a one-day reservation. If I hit save, it now will tell me, hey, daily rates were not set, so it's defaulting to the weekly rate. So now it's using the weekly rate calculation, so prorating to get a charge, otherwise that would end up being 0. So that's one more change that we've made to hope alleviate problems where someone forgets to set rates, and so we don't have 0 rate reservations being accidentally saved. We've made a number of enhancements to group reservations, one of which is the ability to add multiple sites to a group all at one time. So let's say we have an individual reservation, and now we want to make that a group. And there's a couple choices now. That one is that we can add this reservation to another existing group, which before, if individual reservations were made and they weren't part of a group, there was no way to add them to a group. So now we have that feature, which you just need to know the reservation number. I'm not going to do it right now, but put in the reservation number that you want to, and it will add it to that group. But let's say we want to create a new group out of this one, and before you could just add one site at a time, but now we're going to create a new reservation, and we're going to select multiple at the same time. So let's hold down the control key, and you can select whatever site that you want. So let's say we want those 4 spaces. If I hold the shift key, it's continuous, so if I click one and then shift, it'll do everything in between. If I don't hold down a key and just click, it'll get the site that I want, or individual site. And if I hold the control key and click, I can select any site. So let's say we take those 3 sites, create reservation, and bill charges to individual, create, and put in number of guests, save. And so now it's added all of those to the group. Okay, so now let's open one of these. So let's open the group. And so another thing we can do is to manage this group. Now we have a remove from group feature. We can remove any one of these from the group if we want, using this option. Okay, one other thing that I'd like to point out is now automatically when you create a series or a series of reservations in a group, and they all get this unassigned name. Also, the attention required flag is automatically set, so they are yellow on the grid. And we do that because ideally every reservation should have a guest name assigned and should not be left as unassigned. If they're unassigned, you may want to cancel them if they're not being used. So we automatically check them as yellow on the grid. You can uncheck them if you want to take off that attention required flag. Also, one other thing that I want to point out is we've now added a bill to res number selection. So what this means, when you create a group, normally it asks, do you want to bill them all individually, or do you want to bill a certain reservation to another reservation? So the group reservation is 5626. Let's say we wanted this one billed to 5626. We can change it and save, and now all charges, camping charges for this reservation are on 5626. And if we want to change it back, we now have the ability to change it back, and the charges will again show up on this reservation. So it gives you that flexibility of moving all those camping charges back and forth between different reservations. Earlier I mentioned these group area spaces. So let's take a look at how these work. So I have set up 3 tent group areas and 1 general tent area. So let's look at these. So this is set up so that only one group at a time can make reservations on each of these 3, but there can be as many reservations as they want overlapping all on that one time frame. So tent group 1, 2, and 3 are that way, and then tent area allows multiple groups to make simultaneous reservations. So this tent area is basically a free-for-all. There can be as many reservations as you want to allow in overlapping all in the same time frame in that same single space. Okay, so that's how those 3 are set up. Now let's do a reservation. So I'm just going to do a returning guest and pick somebody. Okay, and then I'm going to select, first of all, I'm going to select the tent group area. Okay, so I had these 4 that I talked about: tent area, tent group 1, 2, and 3. So tent area, we should be able to make as many reservations at the same time frame on that site, and it's unlimited and multiple different groups, different people, it really doesn't matter. So if I create a reservation for this site and then do another search for the same dates, you'll see that that site is still available. So let's do it again. New, returning guest. I'm just going to pick a name, and we're going to search tent group area again, same dates, and notice this site is still there. And I could create another reservation for somebody completely different in that same time frame on that same site. Okay. Now if I want to see how many I have, I can go to Find Reservation, and I can type in tent area, which was the name of that, and I can see that I have these 2 reservations, both for the same date, 9/11 to 9/12, in that same exact rental space. So that's how you can monitor how many you have for a given date. You can, of course, change the date ranges and see if there's more overlapping. You can select the dates to be anybody just here on that date. So if you want to know how many are potentially overlapping, let's say you want to know 4th of July, you pick just here on the 4th of July, how many total are in that area on the 4th of July would be a good example of how to use that feature. Okay, so that covers that particular type. Now let's look at the situation for the tent groups 1, 2, and 3, where that can only be one group on that site. So let's say Johnson's my group name. Do it just for today through tomorrow. and it's the tent group area that I'm searching. So I'm going to take tent group 1 for the Johnson group, and I create a reservation. Now it tells us that that is allowed to have multiple reservations at the same time. So I'm going to say I want to create 3 reservations all at the same time for that particular group. Good enough for now for testing purposes. And let's see here. Okay, and then we'll create the reservation. It doesn't matter for this. 2, save, and now it's created all 3 of those. So I now have a group that has all in the tent group and 2 that are unassigned. So I've created all 3 of those group reservations. Now I can add another one to that, or like 4, 5, 10, 20, however many. It's unlimited essentially in that group in that area. But if another group tries to make a reservation for tent group 1, it will be unavailable. So let's just go show that. So I'm going to do, I'll just do a new guess so I can just do a search right away to show you that it's not available. If I do tent group area again this time and do a search, again the same dates, notice now tent group 2 or 1 is no longer available because it's already reserved by another group. The only way I can reserve or add to that is to add to that group, and so then we could add more reservations in that same time frame to that group, but no other groups can reserve it. Next, I want to cover online reservations. I know this is probably new to many of you, so we'll both do an overview of the online reservation process and payments that go with it, as well as pointing out the key new changes. This has been a key area of where we've been developing to improve the online reservation process to make it as flexible as possible for you to run the business the way you want and to accept online reservations. So first I'm going to go into the setup and just show you some of the new options for online reservations. We'll come back and adjust these, but the key ones are in this area under options, in that we now have the ability to use the rental space types like I showed you, have been showing you throughout this video. So premium, full hookup, etc. You can use those the guests will be able to use those to select the type of site that they would like. So that's one key area. Another huge change is an option, if you choose to use it, to have your guests select only the type, and it will show them the type and the number available of that type, and it will not list the specific individual sites. A couple other key areas are the addition of discounts. You can now have standard discounts allowed for your guests to do online, so Good Sam would be a good example of that. And the last one I'll note on here is vehicle charges. If you want to have the vehicle quantity required and a fee associated with each of those, we now have a section for that. But before I get into going through all this, let's just go through the process of how online reservations work. So I'm going to cancel out, and I'm going to flip to pretend this is your website. So online reservations show in what's called an iframe on your website. So we've made this fictitious website, and just assume that this is your website and there is a frame on an empty page in your website that is accessed via say a book now button. Like for example, from our website there would be a button called book a reservation, have that somewhere on your website, or make a reservation, and then it comes to this page. Now, depending on the selections you have set up, some of this may not appear. For example, if you do not select or care about any of the rig type information, let's say all of your rental spaces are the same, then this area would disappear and it would be simpler and cleaner. But let's just go through a process of making a reservation first of all. So let's just make it any campsite reservation, and by the way, I currently have it set up to show all of the individual rental spaces, not to do a by type only. But I do have it set up to use our new types. So this will automatically populate with a list of types of campsites that you set up. So let's say I want a primitive tent. And by the way, notice when I select primitive tent, it triggers off of the keyword tent. And if tent is in that keyword, then the rig information disappears, so we don't force them to require that. Actually, I'm going to do a premium full hookup so that we can test all of this. And I'll just select for today. We'll select fifth wheel and 35 feet and width of 10. Search availability. Now it lists all of the available rental spaces that fit this criteria. And I selected premium full hookup, so it's only listing those. I could have selected any and it would show everything that's available. And also I want you to note that, first of all, for those of you that are new to online reservations, everywhere where you see text, you can set that up in the setup. So you define all of the text that fits your conditions. But this is new, view our terms and conditions. So this is a new feature that we've added, and if you have entered something in the setup for a link for the terms and conditions, then this will appear. And if I click on it, it will open your policies, terms, conditions page. And you can, this is your page that you set up on your website. All we're doing is providing a link to it so that they can view those terms and conditions. But also, if that exists, then this checkbox appears that says, I've read and agreed to the terms and conditions, and that's required to be checked before they can move on through the reservation process. So that's one of the new improvements. But now they select a site and it puts that, the rental space that they've selected in, number of adults. Now we can get rates. Okay, so now as you can see, it's come back with the rates. We've got the online booking fee that's added on, gives us a total. Again, all this text is customizable. Now we enter our information. I have some autofill stuff set up, so I don't have to re-enter any of this. And I'll just put in a note, let's say testing online reservations. Proceed to payment. So this would be a note, of course, the guest could put in, let's say they wanted to request being closer to the pool or early check-in, something like that. They enter their credit card information. I have a fictitious one I can use for testing. Alright, then they hit submit, and that will finalize the reservation in this part of it, gives them a booking number. You again put in the text that you want, and note that all they get is a reservation number, but we recommend your text explain that you will send the confirmation, that you will review their reservation and confirm it. So now let's take a look at CampWorks, and we should see this reservation. If I go, now I see that my reservations are online. By the way, when we have online reservations set up, this is your indicator that everything is good, that they're online, they're functioning. If you double click the blinking new web res, it will open up and show you the reservations that have been created. And so now we can open up the reservation. So here we were testing the online reservations and see that everything is entered in, it's paid, everything looks good. All you have to do is send the confirmation letter. So you click on, just like you would as if you'd made the reservation in CampWorks, and hit confirmation letter and send the confirmation email. And that will confirm it. I just do this. We'll send that email to me. Now we can see that it has been removed off of our not confirmed list. If I were to look at the all web reservations, then it would still be there. But as far as the not confirmed, now it's removed from our list. So let's look at a different case. Let's change our online reservation settings. And And let's change it to select by type only so that we can see the specific spaces by type and not the individual rental spaces. So I'm going to check that one, hit OK, and that will update it online. Let's make a new reservation now with the settings changed to reserve by type. So we'll make one for day today through tomorrow. Pop-up is fine. 10 feet wide. Check the reCAPTCHA. Search for availability. Okay, so we still have our terms and conditions linked just like before, but now notice the display is just what we set up early at the beginning of this video in the setup area. We have the type of hookup, we have the description that we set up, and then the total number available. So that gives us a list of everything available. Now we searched for any available, so it's all the different types. Now they select the type they want. See, there's 9 of the premium full hookups available. 2 adults. I have read and agreed to the terms. Get rates, and it should come back and show, okay, here's the rate information. Note we have the booking fee that's added on, and then the normal rates as calculated. Again, the text is all what you can specify in the setup. Make this reservation. Again, I'll fill it out. Standard process. Okay, submit, and now that reservation will be fully created. Now it's important to know that when you create a reservation by type, what happens in CampWorks, okay, so this new one has been created, and the reason it's going to Gavin Johnson, by the way, is that I have him set up with this email address in here, so even though I put my name in, when it did a lookup, it found that that email address belonged to Gavin, and so it changed it to Gavin because it's using a lookup system inside CampWorks. So note it now CampWorks put it on rental space 5. If I go to the grid, so here's the reservation, rental space 5. You can move it around to whatever space you want to put it on, but it just found the first available premium site and put it in there because that's what the type that they selected, and you can move it around as you see fit. Same process, you would then just confirm the reservation, and everything is done. The payment's been received. The reservation process is completed. Let's review group reservations. So group reservations can be turned on or off in online. So if you check this, then you are not allowing online reservations to groups to be made online. I want it on. I want to show you that example, and I'm going to do it as we're showing by rental space, so or by not by using a number, so they can only do it by type. Okay, and so let's hit OK on that, and we'll go to our online reservations and do a test. So the guest would select new group that they want to create a group reservation. They would enter a name and a password, which is going to be reserved for future purposes so that they can log back in and they can add or delete their group reservation, add sites to it. Just going to put in some basic information so we can do this search. The list comes up, or the availability comes up, and notice there's a new column now that has an option for them to enter the number of sites requested of each of these types. Let's say they want a premium full hookup. Say they want 3 of those, and they want 2 pull-throughs. So we've entered a total of 5 sites. The first one they click on is the premium full hookup. That's the one that is reserved for the guest. So now we're blocking all 5 of these, but we are going to create the first reservation with the person's information for the group host. If they want to change this, they can click on premium full hookup. If they want theirs to be the pull through, they can click on pull through. If they click it again, it'll take it off. Click again, premium. So then this is their site. So they have 2 adults, they agree to the terms and conditions, and now it's creating the reservation for the group host specifically. Okay, so here is their rate information for their particular site and so I'm just going to fill this out automatically. Do this one. And this is all the same as we've done before. I'm using Card Connect to do the processing. We have a fake number we can put in for testing. This, by the way, the fake number only works when I've got it set up in test mode on a test site. There is a testing method that you can use, but it does charge your account, your real live cards, but you can have it do $1, so you don't have to do the full amount. Okay, so let's submit it. And now it will finish the reservation process. It's booked. 5633 is the final number. Now if we go to CampWorks, we check, we should see here it is. If we open up the reservation, we should see that it's a group. So there's 5 total in the group. If we click manage, we can see that, yep, all 5 sites have been assigned. Remember, how this works is we just pick the first sites that are available. Oh, one thing that is important that I want to point out is because we don't know the rig length and width information for each of these, that is your responsibility to evaluate that for if you're doing reserve by type, meaning you're not allowing them to pick specific site numbers. So as each guest comes in, which is the next part of the process I'll show you, to select their unit type or their specific reservation and claim these unassigned reservations, they will enter in their rig length and width if you have it set to require that information, and then you will have to validate whether you actually have a site that fits that size or not. So that is one of the issues with group reservations. When you do it, when you have it set up to only do by type, they can't see the length width, and we can't then validate it for you, or the software can't do it automatically. So you will have to manage that, but they can still reserve a number of sites, and then as they come in, you'll have to validate the length. Okay, so the final portion of the process then is to send the confirmation letter. So with I'm going to do view, I just want to show you this. There's 2 different confirmation letters when you have a new group now. With you could just do the normal individual confirmation letter to confirm this particular guest reservation, but then you would also want to send the group confirmation letter, and the group confirmation letter goes to the group host, but they can forward that letter then to all of the other members of their group, and it contains in it the information required for the group, and essentially, so it has the group name and the group reservation number, and then they can define, or they can forward that to the other members of the group who can log in and create the reservation online to take one of those unassigned sites and put their name in it to finalize the booking process. So hopefully that's clear, and I'll go through that process next. If I'm now one of the group members and the group host has forwarded the group email to me, the group confirmation letter email, I can go in and log in to the site per the instructions and find the reservation. So let's see. Oops, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong one. Existing group. Bolster 56. 56, 53, and then I would put in my rig length. Now you will have to validate whether this fits, again, because we're only doing a reserve by type. We can't guarantee that anything fits because you will be moving guests around to the sites that you want to put them on. So this, now notice it only shows 2 available of each, and there's no quantity requested because that's already been set by the group host when they made the overall booking for the group. So now this process is, I'm one of the members of the group, I'm just claiming one of those sites that has already been reserved, but it hasn't been finalized because it has no name information. So let's say I'm going to select this one, read the terms and conditions, get rates, and now they go through the rest of the process just like it's an individual reservation. Here's what their rates are, put in their information, and finalize the process just the same as we've done several times before. So let's do this quickly to get through it just to show you that it all works. Okay, we submit it. Now the credit card's being processed and we should see our success message. So it's successfully booked, and then if we go back into CampWorks, we should see that that booking has now also come in. And so here we are, it's this one. And now if we look at the group, we should see that, yep, the name is on 2 of the 5 sites. So we've successfully claimed and assigned that second site. So that's pretty much it for the group reservations online, and hope you guys like it, and I hope you find it useful.
Well, we hope this video has given you a much better understanding of new features in version 3.8. There's a few more hidden gems in that we didn't bother to go through, so hopefully you'll find those on your own and see a number of the improvements. We tried to incorporate as much of the feedback as we can in each release, but it's a mountain of work, and so we'll continue to make improvements as we proceed with new versions. The focus for the rest of the year will be in a couple of different areas. First of all, we'll be supporting this version and any bugs that crop up. Second of all, we are working on some smartphone applications that will complement the current CampWorks and some new capabilities both for your guests and for your operation. And third, we'll be working on a complete rewrite. We've been working on that for about 2 years of the CampWorks program, and that will offer some really new, innovative, and exciting capabilities that we think you will all enjoy. So we hope you all look forward to that. Please continue to support us with the support agreements. That's what enables us to continue to improve the software. Another key focus for the rest of the year will be sales and marketing. We need to, of course, have more sales to get more revenue to grow our business, and we hope that you guys will help us by taking on some of the additional features that are a win-win for both you and our business, as well as recommending CampWorks to your campground owner friends and writing recommendations that we can use on our website or on other sites that will help us to get the name out on our software. On a personal note, I thought I'd fill you in on our plans for the rest of the year. My wife and I are officially empty nesters now. We have our main house for sale and have been living at the cabin, as you can see. We thoroughly enjoy that, but it's going to get cold soon. There's no better way to understand the business than to live it. So that's what we're planning to do this winter. We will travel and meet as many of you as we can, become campers ourselves, and hopefully understand your operations as well as the entire industry in a way that will help us to make a much better product and offer much better services. Thanks again, guys, and take care, and we'll talk soon. Bye.